once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. That is it. Finito! We are done for the season. How quickly has that gone? It seems like we come to Abu Dhabi far too quickly every single year, and despite this being a record 24 races in the F1 calendar, which in my opinion is still 6 too many, we still got here rather fast, didn't we? And it's like, oh my god, how did that happen? But here we are nonetheless. The final round of the championship has come to a close. Of course, the Drivers' Championship was already wrapped up going into this race for the Formula One season in real life, of course, but the Constructors was not. It fell the way of McLaren in the end, so congratulations to them. Ferrari put up a great effort in that final race, considering what they had in setbacks as well in terms of penalties for Leclerc due to battery issues. I think to get 2 Ferraris on the podium was a stunning effort. But yeah, nonetheless, Abu Dhabi, it was the usual, wasn't it? Just a bit of a meh to finish the season off with. The final race of the season should always be Brazil, and I will always maintain that. But, you know, we're not here to talk about that, we're here to talk about the race. So let's kick things off, shall we? But before we do all of that, of course, let's take a look at the current Crawl Room standings then going into this episode. It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. As you can see already, Charles Leclerc with a healthy lead out front. Looks like he could wrap up the title. He's technically already won it, hasn't he? Because I tend to only score like a maximum of 10 or 12 points. So even if he was to receive an of the week, it is pretty much Leclerc's. But you never know, never say never. That being said, though, it is very, very close indeed for second, third, 4th, 5th. It's very, very tight there, so it could be anyone's come the final checkered flag at the end of this episode. So the podium places are still up for grabs. Let's take a look at the team standings as well then for you. Those are on the screen as well for you now to take a look at. And of course, as always mentioned, and throughout the series I've mentioned that the minus points have not yet been deducted. But this is the race where it happens, so take a quick look at those points that they've got, and then take a look at the minus or plus points that they've received at the side of their respective teams, and that will depict whether they're going to tumble down the order or climb up it. So there is a lot to play for in this final race for the team's championship on the Crawl Room. But without further ado then, let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Lando Norris in the mighty McLaren. Oh my god, Lando, what a drive. You won McLaren the Constructors there. You single-handedly just then did everything possible to win it. Fuck off. This should have been wrapped up months ago. You know, had the pace of that McLaren come to fruition and the drivers not bottle it and the team strategies not bottle it earlier in the season, the Constructors' Championship would have been wrapped up probably before Vegas, probably about Singapore time, I would say, would be an accurate assessment. But no, the drivers kept dropping the ball, the team kept dropping the ball, and it ended up going right to the final race, which it should not have done. It should not have done. But anyway, we got there, and Lando did do a great job. Pole position, led the race commandingly, had the measure over the Ferraris, had good pace as well, and just drove well. So I'm not discrediting Lando at all. He has had a good season this season, but like even he admitted in the last round, he wasn't ready to fight for a title, and neither were McLaren. So the fact that they wrapped up the Constructors is some consolation. But he said over the radio, next year's my year. And I hope he's right. I hope Lando can get the maturity behind him. I hope he can get the ruthlessness behind the wheel. And I hope he can stop being a pansy at times when it comes to being hard on himself, when he makes a slight mistake and then he just goes off the boil for races on end due to one little mistake earlier. And I just hope he really gets that grit and determination behind him. Because if McLaren build the car that they built this year into next year, they're going to be a rocket ship from the start, and they have the capability, both drivers and the team, to go and dominate it like Red Bull did a couple of seasons ago. You know, they have that ability. It's just the fact that it's just all gone wrong on so many occasions for both Lando and McLaren. And as a team, they've not quite worked together, and the drivers haven't worked together as well. As I mentioned, though, that's no criticism to them. That's just my assessment over the course of the year. Yes, you can all holler and cheer that Lando suddenly won the championship for him in just this race alone. But it doesn't, is it? It doesn't work like that. It adds up over the course of a season, and Lando did a great job when he needed to. at last. So finally a little bit of pressure was on him and he delivered, he didn't bottle it, so that was nice. So maybe we are seeing the new Lando coming in already. But yeah, next season, no excuses. The minute he starts bottling it, he's going to be punished heavily on the crawl room. In second place, we come to Carlos Sainz. Smooth operator, smooth operator. Carlos, great to see him here in P2 and doing what he could to try and give Ferrari the Constructors' Championship, but sadly P2 just wasn't enough for them. They had to get ahead of that McLaren car, didn't they? But Carlos, what a fantastic time it's been at Ferrari for him. This season in particular, he has really shown his worth. We had a couple of rough edges, didn't we, at the start of his Ferrari campaign, and there was some really weird moments where he was just bidding it off in the gravel at Australia and things like that. And didn't really look to be adjusting well, but this year he has settled in, he's hunkered down and become a key part of Ferrari's success over the course of this year. He has been the one, as always, to question the team strategies and like, no, we're not doing that, I'm not pitting, or I am coming in and you will be ready for me, we need these tyres. And it's always gone right for them, and I think they've finally listened and understood to what Carlos means. And that has improved the strategic game from Ferrari overall, because we've not really seen any bad errors this year from Ferrari, have we? Apart from putting Leclerc on the intermediates at Silverstone far too early. But that was a gamble. You know, sometimes a gamble pays off, but that one was a little bit silly. But apart from that, Ferrari have been fairly faultless this year. They've had a car that hasn't really worked out well overall. Some races it just turn up and be like, yeah, we're fourth fastest, you know, we're third fastest, and they're just not able to deliver the results, and that's what's cost them in the Constructors in the long run. The car has developed, the drivers have got the most out of it the most amount of time anyway, but yeah, sometimes it's just been difficult weekends overall. Carlos Sainz for this race in particular, it has to be a perfect 10, doesn't it? A great effort, did all he could. It's a shame that he's leaving Ferrari. I think Ferrari are going to regret that decision, to be honest with you, but we'll see, we will see. It's early days yet. Hamilton's not there yet, is he? So we'll have to wait and see, but Carlos, it is a shame to see him leave Ferrari after what has been a great career for him in that Ferrari squad, and I hope it's not the last podium we ever see of him. And I think it was nice as well that Carlos got to celebrate on the podium with Lando and Charles. That was nice, wasn't it? A nice little moment there. His teammate and one of his best mates in the sport as well. So that was a nice little send-off for him, but I really hope it isn't the last podium we see from Carlos in Formula 1, and I hope his venture at Williams goes well. But for now, it's a perfect sense, Carlos. Great race overall. In third place, we come to Sha-La-La. Oh, sacre bleu, Sha-La-La-La-La. Hit with a 10-place grid drop due to battery problems. He had to change his battery units, which was over the allocation. It's a 10-place grid drop, so he knew that going into qualifying. Sadly, had his lap deleted in Q2 for a track limits infringement at turn 1. He was slightly over the white line, wasn't he? And that meant that instead of being like P11, P12, P13, somewhere around there, he was stone dead last. He was at the back of the grid, propping up the back of the field, because P14 and had 10 places on. Well, that's obviously at the back. So yeah, for Charles Leclerc this weekend, that was his only real downfall. He made a difficult situation a little bit more tougher than it had to be, but in the first lap got himself up to P8. I mean, how crazy is that? Benefited from a couple of offs and biffs and barges that we saw on the first lap, but then the most part, the overtakes were genuine, and he had to make some great moves around the outside, particularly down the long straight, the long back straight. He was around the outside of everyone and just did it perfectly. Was just fantastic. Was in the groove, in the zone, and P3 is pretty much the best he could manage, but he was gutted, wasn't he? Because he thought, that was my pace from the back. Where could I have been had I started at the front? So yeah, an unfortunate one for him this weekend. But overall, a great season for Charles. Finishes third in the Drivers' Championship as well. And yeah, it's a season he can look back and be proud on, I feel. But for Charles Leclerc, it's 9 points to him. Just going to knock him a point off for that little silly track limits deletion in qualifying, making his job that little bit tougher. But recovering to P3, I don't think he could have done much better than that, even if he started P12, P13 or somewhere around there. I think he certainly mitigated the damage that was done. 9 to Leclerc. Finishing in 4th place in his last ever race at Mercedes, it is, of course, Lewis Hamilton. P4, great finish for him, to be honest with you. Unfortunate in qualifying to pick up that bollard that came from an errant Kevin Magnussen, trying his best to get out of the way and knocked a bollard into the front of Hamilton's car, which absolutely ruined his aero in the final sector and meant he was out in Q1. But again, a Q1 elimination, and here he is finishing P4. Great pace in the race. Again, what could have been? What could have been, eh? But he didn't do a good enough lap in the first stints to get through. You know, I know the track was Evolution. It was certainly ramping up a lot, but I think that Mercedes car should have had enough in it to be able to deliver the result without needing that second push lap, that final push lap that got ruined. But for Lewis Hamilton this weekend overall, it's going to be 9 to him as well, knocking him a point off for that qualifying effort, despite it not technically being his fault. It was just a shame to see him out so far. But to finish P4, get his teammate on the last lap as well. Great effort, great result. Leaving Mercedes for Ferrari, we will see. We'll see what happens. Lewis has been very dejected, hasn't he, these last few races about his qualifying efforts, and just says, I'm not quick anymore. So is that really the kind of attitude Ferrari need going into this final, into 2025? I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll see if he books his ideas up at Ferrari. But for now, 9 points to Lewis. A great way to finish his career. It probably would have been a podium had it not been for that qualifying mishap. And finishing in 5th place, we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that top 5. Yes, here he is, finishing himself in P5 to round out the season. Didn't really see much of him in the race, to be honest. He was rather lonely until the last lap, where his teammate caught him up, overtook him, and fair play to him for that. Kept it fair and kept it tidy, and that's all you can ask for, isn't it? So, George of the Russell this weekend is going to be a solid 8. A solid 8 to him. Had a good, obviously a lot better qualifying than his teammate Lewis, but didn't really deliver the results. Finished behind him. When a car starts down in 18th, you should really finish ahead of it, shouldn't you? Finish behind the clerk as well, who carved his way through the field. Yeah, it's a shame not to see him on the podium, because again, I think a podium was possible, but he just didn't have the pace this weekend overall. So yeah, George Russell, it's 8 points to him. And he will be the lead driver officially now going into next season for Mercedes. Let's see how that plays out. But yeah, for now, it's 8 to George, a top 5 finish to finish off 2024. In 6th place, we come to Max Verstappen.
You've all asked for me this season, and now you've got me. Now shut up, or I'll beat you all up like I did my son if he didn't win a kart race.
Oh, Max. Your own dad has awarded you an of the week. That's right. A lot of people were asking it for it in the early stages of the season, and I thought, no, I can't really include Jos, can I? Because he's such a knob. But then I thought, no, you know what? I think he'd do well to finish off the last race of the season with. And yeah, I never expected Jos Verstappen to be awarding an of the week to his son. But it needed to happen, didn't it? What a stupid lunge up the inside of Oscar at the turn 1, lap 1. There was no need for it. There was literally no need for it at all. It's like, why did Crazy Max come back all of a sudden? There was no need for that. Had clear pace for a podium this race as well. Maybe even a win. It was doing okay, wasn't it? I mean, the McLarens were certainly fast, but, Max with his strategy and with Max being Max in his race pace ability, it could have easily been on the podium, P2, maybe even won the bloody thing, but he just blew it all on lap 1, and there's just no need. Oh, we're super unlucky there, I was fully up the inside, and... No, Max, just pack it in, will you? You just drove like a tit again. So yeah, it's an of the week to end the season off with. Max Verstappen. A very up and down season he's had, and once again this is a down. Could have ended this season off with another podium, but as it was P6 and an of the week. I don't really know what to expect from Max going into next year. I think he's going to be up against it, he's going to be on the edge, he's going to be on the limit, and he's going to be struggling. It's as simple as that. I think if he's not got a quick car, we're going to see more ridiculous moves like this, and the trouble is, it can make a ridiculous move on his championship contender this year, such as Lando, of course, in Austria, but going into next year, if you've got 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, possibly his teammate fighting as well for the championship, if Aston Martin get their act together, it's crazy, isn't it, to say, but if he's going to start taking cars out, he can only pick one, and he'll have to choose wisely. So yeah, Max Verstappen, it's an of the week to him to end his 2024 campaign off with. It's certainly been an up and down one. He finishes the season off with the championship, but I think he can thank his lucky stars that Lando didn't deliver on more occasions, and that he got that massive deficit at the start of the season to be able to mitigate the damage that was done towards the end. So yeah, Max Verstappen, and of the week to end his season. 7th place, we come to Pierre Gasly. Oh, Pierre. Oh, as a Haas fan, I'm gutted because Pierre Gasly has just literally done everything possible. These last 4 races, he has picked up 33 points. How crazy is that? So he had 9 points before these last 4 races on the board, and he's picked up 33, and that was enough to give Alpine 6th in the constructors' standings, and also give Pierre Gasly 10th in the drivers' standings by 1 solitary point over Nico Hülkenberg, which is just crazy, isn't it? Hülkenberg, for the most part, has been the best B-team driver this season, I would say, without a doubt. Yeah, he's had a couple of moments here and there, but who hasn't this year? And yeah, Gasly, just to snatch it away by a point, that P10 in the Drivers' Championship is a little bit unfair. But it's not unfair, that's racing, isn't it? But it'd have been nice to see Nico get the position he deserved with that 10th place. Pierre Gasly, though, Alpine have clearly, whatever updates they've put on that car have worked, and once again this was an example of that. The race itself, he can count his lucky stars that Hülkenberg did get a 3-place grid penalty for bullshit reasons, because obviously that then meant that he was able to stay ahead of Hülkenberg, and I think had Hülkenberg not had the penalty, it'd have been role reversed. I think Gasly wouldn't have been able to get past Nico, so it was a difficult one in that situation for Haas, but once again, Gasly finishes here, P7, 6 points, good effort, and 10 points on the board to him to round out his season. Well done, Pierre Gasly. A perfect 10 to you, my friend. Did a great job there this weekend and thoroughly deserved 10 points. And as already mentioned, finishing behind Pierre Gasly, we come to Nico Hülkenberg. Oh, needed that. Nico Hülkenberg, fantastic. P8 finish to round out his season with the Haas squad. The Haas team this year have picked up their second most successful season in Formula 1, which says a lot, doesn't it? It says a lot. How much they have improved from last season is unbelievable. They've got on top of the tyre life issues and tyre wear issues, and they have delivered the goods this year. They really, really have. The upgrades that have come have worked as well. And Nico Hülkenberg, such a shame to see him finish 11th in the driver's standings and for Haas to finish 7th, because they deserve that 6th place and Nico Hülkenberg deserved that 10th place. But that's motor racing, isn't it? That is motor racing. Hülkenberg picked up a 3-place fucking bullshit penalty after qualifying 4th. They make it up as they go along, don't they? And it always seems to involve Haas and Nico sometimes, although he did get away with it at Qatar, but he didn't escape it here for taking out the whole world. But yeah, Hülkenberg in this particular race drove faultlessly. The 3-place grid drop was for overtaking cars in the tunnel, but they were bunching up so much and they told them not to. So why don't you penalise the cars that were bunching up? Because you told them, look, you can't overtake in the tunnel, so you can't bunch up. But yet you're okay to bunch up, but you still couldn't overtake in the tunnel. Fucking bullshit. Anyway, so yeah, stunning P4 lap time that deserved to stand for Nico and dropped down to 7th. And as mentioned then at the start, he had a great launch off the line, got himself into 5th place with the result of the contact between Piastri and Verstappen, of course. And then was running fairly well with Gasly, but just could never quite get around him, which was a shame. It wouldn't have made a difference to the constructors' standings had that position swapped, but it would have made a difference to 10th in the standings overall for those 2 drivers personally. So, yeah, that's a shame that Hülkenberg had that penalty when he didn't deserve it, because had that penalty not happened, I think he would have stayed ahead of Gasly, but that's it, isn't it? So Nico Hülkenberg, a perfect 10 to him to round out his career at Haas. He's with the Sauber squad next year, already testing with them this time around, as of right now, probably, in Abu Dhabi for the winter test, and to get familiar with that heap of shit, the double lad that's going to be driving around next year. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on, but for now, perfect 10 to Nico, great race to end off his season. 9th place, we come to Fernando Alonso in the first of the Aston Martins. Aston Martin not scoring any points for quite a long period of time, and then Alonso comes here and picks up a few points at Qatar, picks up a couple of points here. Still finished with less than 100 points on the board, though, at the end of the season for Aston Martin. Really does show you the fall from grace they have had this season. It really, really does. Alonso, though, like I say, picking up a couple of points is decent. They had good straight line speed, but not much else. Able to defend quite well, but not able to attack. and they finish here P9 with Alonso, which is a respectable effort. It's 8 points to Alonso, good effort overall, good race, and I don't think you could have expected much more from him. And picking up the final points paying position, we come to Oscar Pastry. What's your favourite pastry? Once again, a little bit flaky.
I wish my dad was as strict as I was with Max. I might have won a championship then too.
And there we have it, of the week 2, Oscar Pastry. It wasn't his fault at the start, admittedly, but it certainly was his fault for bumping into the back of Franco Colapinto, giving Colapinto a penalty, and giving himself a 10-second time penalty post-race, of course, not post-race, had to serve in the pit stop, for just a needless, silly contact. Made it just hard work for himself, didn't he? Made it hard work for himself. So yeah, Oscar Pastry, wasn't his fault he got took out of the race, but obviously adding 10 seconds to his race time, take that 10 seconds off, he'd have been probably P7, P6, somewhere around there. He'd have done a lot better than where he ended up. So yeah, it's just a shame, isn't it? Once again, McLaren can't seem to get 2 cars up there when they need him. It just doesn't happen, does it, for them? So yeah, it certainly put them on 10 tucks for the Constructors' Championship, but they did deliver the results in the end, and that's all that matters. Oscar Pastry picked up a point at least. He got fastest lap as well, didn't he? No, he didn't. Magnussen got the fastest lap. So yeah, he picked up 1 point at least, which could have been crucial. It wasn't in the end, but nice to have nonetheless. But yeah, it should have been P6 as a minimum after that contact, but it wasn't because he had made silly contact with Colapinto. Stupid. So yeah, and of the week to round out Oscar's season, and must be said, what has been a difficult season since that break that we had, like that 3-week break between, like, was it Austin and somewhere else? Yeah, just never seemed to find his feet again in these triple headers at the remainder of the season. So yeah, great shame, and yeah, of the week to Oscar Pastry. Finishing in 11th place and just outside the points, we come to Alex Albon in the first of the Williams. What a shame to see him just here outside the points. He was running around in P9, but unfortunately for him, his tyres had cried enough, and he got nabbed past by Alonso and then Piastri towards the end of the race. So they tried something, it almost worked, it didn't quite come to fruition. At least Alex was able to complete the race with a, got the checkered flag under his belt, got the race completed. Sadly wasn't any points, but at least there wasn't any damage on his side of the garage at last, and was a respectable race overall. Got knocked out in Q1, which was a bit of a shame. I think that car is still capable of Q2 appearances, but they just want to get the season over and done with now, and that's what's happened. Carlos Sainz in that car for the testing, so that's nice to see how he gets on there. It'll be encouraging to see what happens, but yeah, overall for Alex Albon this season overall, it's been a tough one, hasn't it, nonetheless, but this race weekend overall, solid, but not spectacular. It's going to be 6.5 to Alex Albon. He was lucky, really, had five of the weeks this season, so was very close to a disqualification. Thankfully didn't do anything ridiculously stupid this race to see him disqualified at the final hurdle, but yeah, 6.5 to Alex I think is fair. Get this tough season out of the way for Williams and for Alex and reset for 2025, because there's going to be strong competition with Sainz as his teammate, and Williams need to build Sainz and Albon a car that can deliver points regularly, because it's not going to take very long for Carlos Sainz especially to get frustrated. So yeah, Williams, you've had your restructuring period now over the winter for last year. There's no excuses going into 2025. 6.5 to Alex to round out what has been a very up and down season. Next up, we come to Yuki Tsunoda in the first of the Visa Cash App Maxi Tampon RB Buy One Get One Free. Don't forget your Alpha Tauri, your Toro Rosso, your Minardi. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. That heritage that just goes through my body when I talk about that name. Oh, it's like bottle of buttercup syrup going down my throat. Anyway, for Yuki Tsunoda this weekend, it all went wrong at the start, didn't it? Didn't get off the line particularly well. Bogged down, was at the back of the grid, and then that was it. No points were going to be possible from there. Would he have scraped a point even without that? I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think looking at who was in the top 10, it could have maybe got a point, maybe, but I think it's unrealistic. But here finishing P12 after a dodgy start off the line, yeah, I think that's as good as it really got, to be honest. That's the only thing we could really talk about. And then he just sort of went mellow from there and he recovered to P12, which was a good effort. But I don't think points were ever possible. 8th in the constructor standings at the end for the RB squad. What has been a tough season overall for them. Started off strongly, then went away, then had a mid-stage of just looking good again, and then tailed away again towards the end of the campaign. It's a shame to say and see, but that's just the fact of life, isn't it? And they'll regroup for next year. Who's going to be in the cars, though? Who knows? Who knows? It's going to be 4 points to Yuki Tsunoda this race overall. Very mixed season again, but Tsunoda has, for the most part, proved that he deserves a shot at that Red Bull. So we'll see. We will see. 4 to Tsunoda. Next up, finishing unlucky for some P13, we come to Zhou Guanyu in the first of the state Kick Me Up the Arse Saubers. And Zhou this weekend was okay, but nothing special or spectacular. Out in Q1 while his teammate got into Q3, and then in the race itself wasn't really running around in the points at all, but at least he crossed the line in and got the checkered flag. That's about as good as his race got. Disqualified anyway on the crawl room for Zhou Guanyu and has been for a number of races now, so we don't really talk about him. But it could be his final time we ever see him or talk about him in Formula 1. He's hopeful of a Ferrari reserve going into next year and then trying to get back on the grid for 2026. So obviously he's out trying to eye up the new Andretti squad, I imagine. That's not Andretti. It's not Andretti, though. It's not Andretti because we can't have that name associated with Formula 1. No. But yeah, the Andretti team, the Cadillac team, the General Motors machine that will be in Formula 1 for 2026. But to be honest, I think there's going to be a lot of drivers eyeing that seat up. So we will see what happens there. But yeah, Zhou Guanyu, great guy, lovely guy on and off track, but just doesn't really have the calibre for Formula 1. He's had 3 seasons, though. He's had a good crack at the whip. And if he wasn't to return, in terms of a character and a personality on the grid, just a very meek and mellow fellow that's quite nicely, polite and things. Yeah, if championships are won on politeness and how nice you are as a person, then I think Zhou Guanyu would certainly be in strong contention for that. But unfortunately, that doesn't lead to on-track results, and that's where he's fallen short. So yeah, Zhou Guanyu disqualified anyway. Has been for a number of races, but if this is the last time I talk about you, Zhou Guanyu, yeah. Well done. You did a good job. For 3 years, you did a solid effort. And, yeah, you've not delivered the results expected, but you can say you've had a go, can't you? So, yeah, congratulations, Zhou Guanyu, on your 3 seasons in Formula 1. And that's that. Next up, we come to Lance Stroll. Sadly, I will be talking about this bell end into next season as well. Hopefully not for long, though. Disqualified on the crawl room has been for quite a considerable number of races now, and once again falls short of picking up any points while his teammate does. I don't know what Aston Martin are going to do. I really don't. I can never take him seriously while ever he's in that car, and I don't understand why I should, because it's just ridiculous the fact he's there. He doesn't deserve to be in the sport. He's had far too long in it. He's not, you see Zhou Guanyu, 3 seasons, and you think, well, you're not proved your worth, go. He'd never proved his worth. There's been 1 or 2 good races. You could probably count on one hand the amount of good races Lance Stroll has had in his career in Formula 1. And then the rest of it, it's just shit. But you can count on more hands the stupid mistakes he's made. Not just poor races, I'm talking about the ridiculous stuff like Brazil this year. It's crazy. So yeah, Stroll, fucking hell, we are going to be talking about this Muppet next season, but I'm not very happy about it, as you can tell. But needs must, innit? Daddy racing and all that lot. Next up in 15th place, we come to Jack Doohan, stepping in for STBSD Ocon after they decided they didn't want his services for the final race of the season and wanted to try and evaluate Jack Doohan. Now, for Jack, he didn't have the updates that Gasly has had. Now, that's the excuse that they've been using for Ocon up until this point. And now they're using the excuses again for Jack Doohan that he didn't have the updates that Gasly had. So I don't quite understand what's going on. If we're going to base it, though, I think that was not a good performance by Jack Doohan overall. I was a little bit unreserved when he was announced, I'm not going to lie. Apparently he's only signed a contract next season for 5 races, and then he'll get re-evaluated, which is difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. So yeah, it is a difficult one to judge because Alpine are now saying that, oh yeah, he's not got the upgrades and stuff, but they'll know on true paper, and I don't think that Jack Doohan should be here finishing 15th. I really don't. So Yeah, tough one that. Tough one. I don't think Jack Doohan's going to be overly impressed. I don't think Alpine are going to be overly impressed with the figures at the end. I mean, would you even say points were possible? Gasly 7th? Maybe not, but you'd maybe say like 11th or 12th. Maybe just missing out on the points with the upgrades on the car. 15th? Behind Stroll? Behind Zhou Guan Yu? Just tough, isn't it? It's just a little bit difficult. So, Jack Doohan, 3 points on the board to him. It's not going to count, though. It's not going to be relevant. I'm not going to shift Ocon off just to put Jack Doohan on there for 3. So you're not going to see him on the final scoreboard. He's got 3 points, and that's that. I hope they can understand what's going on there, though. And I hope to see Jack Doohan in the car next season. And I hope to see him improve. And I hope to see him do well. I think he's a great guy, a great character. But I was always a little bit unreserved with that signing and announcement. And then we've seen this from him, which doesn't really bode well. It's got to be honest. So yeah, Jack Doohan, 3 points to him, a cautious 3. We'll see what happens going into next season and see how long he lasts. But based on this race, it looks like he could be in for a tough time. Then we come to Kevin Magnussen, the departing Viking from Haas once again. Will this be the last time we see him in Formula 1? I think that's it now, I really do. He's signed with BMW in the, whatever category it is, Is it IMSA? Is it IMSA in the prototypes? Either way, he's signing with them and doing a good job there, and also staying within the Haas family as a kind of like a nurturer to Ollie Behrman and to Esteban Ocon. Not that he needs nurturing, of course, because he's just a fucking hero, isn't he? 8-time world champion, that guy. But yeah, you know, Kevin Magnussen, what a sad race. What a sad way to end his Formula 1 career. The car was on fire, but it had floor damage in Q2. You could see it scraping on the bottom. Turns out the rear plank fell off and was just dragging along the road, so causing massive amounts of aero disturbance, and that's why he was out in Q2. No fault of his own, just the wood fell off and was dragging along, so that was a great shame. And then in the race itself, had a mighty first lap to get himself up to P7 and try and fight Alpine with that constructor's standings. But then he came into the pits and had a 7.2 second pit stop, which wasn't good. Dropped in behind the Aston Martins. I mentioned that the Aston Martins didn't have pace this weekend, but were slippery in a straight line. Kevin Magnussen couldn't find a way around them, so they decided to go for a 2-stop option and try and go get them that way. And then as he came out the pits, he was overtaking Valtteri Bottas at the end of the long straight, and Bottas just ploughed straight into the side of him, causing him floor damage, and lucky to keep going, really. He then pitted again to inspect the damage and to get the soft tyres on the car, and then he went out and set fastest lap to end his career with a fastest lap point. It almost seems like a Daniel Ricciardo way to go out, but Daniel Ricciardo was dog shit nowhere when it happened, and they decided to go for fastest lap just to give him something. Whereas Kevin Magnussen's race was looking positive, and it went wrong due to a team error and then getting taken out. It was just unfortunate, wasn't it? So yeah, for Kevin Magnussen this weekend, it's going to be a solid 6. I do feel this will be the last time we're going to see him on the grid in Formula 1 in a car racing. But I suppose if there's any sort of illness that befalls Ollie Behrman or Esteban Ocon, K-Mag is there to step in potentially. So it might not be, but I don't wish any bad luck or illness to those drivers, of course. I just think that's probably the only way we're going to see him do 1 or 2 races as an absolute max now. But yeah, if it doesn't happen in 2025, it's not going to happen at all. I think next year is just going to be this sort of like departing year for K-Mag. And if nothing befalls him for 2026, I think he'll leave Haas, leave Formula 1 altogether, and then move on to anything then full-time. So yeah, K-Mag, what a blessing it's been. What a great time he has had at Haas. He was the great returnee of 2022. Scored some fantastic points from there. 2023 was a tough year for the Haas squad and Kevin overall. And then this year, he has been shown up by his teammate, without a doubt, Hülkenberg. But Kevin Magnussen did put some impressive performances to defend, to make sure that his teammates scored points, and also he has had some great races as well himself on merit. This race could have been points, but it went wrong due to no fault of his own. 6 to K-Mag, I'll miss you, but your time is now. And then we come to the retirements on this list, of course. So the last to retire in the race, the first that I talk about on this list is Liam Lawson in the second of the Visa Cash App Max Tampon RBs Buy one, get one free. Don't forget your AlphaTauri, your Toro Rosso, your Minardi. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Liam Lawson, short, sweet and simple. It's 5 points to him, a middle of the row 5. He scores 1 point more than his teammate. That seems unjust, doesn't it? But he just had the bad run of luck, didn't he? He really, really did. His wheel wasn't on properly. He had to come round and do that. Then he got a 10-second stop-go penalty for that wheel being insecure, so it put him right to the very back anyway. And then he broke down on the last couple of laps. Fantastic. Great. Just what you need, isn't it? Just what you need. Well done, Liam. Yeah, well done the AlphaTauri team as well. That was a shame to say and see. Where's Liam Lawson ending up next season? I'm not sure. Heavily rumoured to be at Red Bull, but does he really deserve that Red Bull seat? Tsunoda has beaten him in qualifying. Tsunoda has scored more points than him. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. I would put Tsunoda in and give him a go, but I don't think Red Bull want to. But would I put Liam in? Probably not. I'd give him a seat at the RB team. We shall wait and see. All will be revealed over winter. But for now, middle of row 5 to Liam Lawson. A tough way to end what has been a solid few races. Next up, we come to Valtteri Bottas in the second of the State Kick Me Up the Arse Saubers.
Look, there's been a lot of bad press about me in recent years, and all of the allegations are totally unfounded. Now stop asking questions or I'll gag you, throw you in the back of my car, and then dump you in the middle of nowhere until you learn your lesson about spreading rumours.
And there we have it. And of the week to round out Valtteri Bottas potentially his Formula One career. Jos Verstappen there, not very happy with him at all, as you can tell. But rightfully so. What has he done this weekend? It looked like it was going to be such a great way for him to end his season and potentially his Formula One career. P9 in qualifying, the best that Sauber have had all year long. And then in the race itself, had a dodgy start, lost a load of places, despite the fact there were 2 cars going off ahead. Lost positions, ended up behind Sergio Perez, then tapped Sergio Perez into a spin, got a 10-second time penalty for that, then carried on in the race, served his 10-second time penalty, was running round, trundling round at the back, sort of around with his teammate then. Didn't look like points were going to be possible, but at least take the checkered flag, Valtteri, take the checkered flag, and then Kevin Magnussen, with his misfortunes, came out of the pits, went to overtake him, and then Valtteri Bottas just square on locked up and ploughed straight into the side of Kevin Magnussen, and damaging his own front suspension and front wing. He dragged it back to the pits and retired on the spot. That was his career over with, and he will have a 5-place grid drop for whenever he returns to Formula One. So he joins Jenson Button now, doesn't he, with a penalty that's pending. So if anyone ever decides to return to Formula One, like such as Jenson Button and now Valtteri Bottas, they'll take a grid penalty on their return. So yeah, Valtteri Bottas, will he return to Formula One? I think maybe it's going to be with the General Motors Cadillac Andretti squad, isn't it? If it's going to happen, it's going to be there. If it doesn't happen, then it's not going to happen at all. So we'll wait and see. Rumoured to be signing for Mercedes as their test and reserve driver for next year. They've let Mick Schumacher go now, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas, a really shit way to end his year and end his potentially his Formula One career, taking 2 cars out, suffering penalties, and retiring himself out the race. Silly. Then we come to Franco Colapinto. In the second of the Williams, my oh my, what a fall from grace Colapinto has had this season. He's come in all guns blazing, scoring points, getting great results, out-qualifying his teammate, and then we come here in the last few races and it's been Q1 eliminations, which was the same again here. And then in the race itself, it was too early to tell what was going to be capable of Colapinto before he got that rear puncture caused by Piastri hitting the back of him, which was no fault of Colapinto's. That puncture ended up causing a slight degradation in the rear suspension. Wasn't picked up, of course, during the pit stop. They just whacked the tyre off and whacked a new tyre on, and then they started noticing that the car was having weird oscillations and vibrations at the back of the car. So to avoid a failure, of course, because that's the last thing that Williams need. I mean, I know it's the end of the season, but they need those cars for testing right now, the young driver test, of course, and the rookie tests and the evaluation of the new drivers. They need those cars out on track, so you can imagine if an oscillation turned into a vibration that then turned into a rear suspension failure, spat him off into the wall and left another Williams in a right smelly mess. That wouldn't have been ideal. So yeah, he had to retire the car, and even James Vowles says, I'm sorry it ended this way, and I'm sorry as well. Will we see Franco Colapinto back? I think it all depends on what's going to happen with the AlphaTauri RB squad and what happens at Red Bull and who's going there and who's going there. There's a potential for him to sneak his way into that seat, but I don't think it's likely, is what I would say. I don't think it's 100% likely that it will happen. But nonetheless, Colapinto can regroup for 2026. Again, potential candidate for the Cadillac squad moving in with the General Motors. If any drivers seriously underdeliver in 2025, he's got room to come back in 2026 as well. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But Colapinto for now is 3 points on the board to him, to round out his short and brief Formula 1 career. But what an up and down time he's had in the 8 races he's sustained, or 9 races he's had. Yeah, we've seen some highs and we've seen some lows, but overall he did a better job than Logan because he picked up more points. 3 to Colapinto. And then last but by no means least, we come to Checo Sergio Perez, and talking about him last seems very, very appropriate, doesn't it? It really does. This just sums up his season. Taken out by Valtteri Bottas at the start of the race, of course, and then he kept going, but he sustained rear floor damage. There was rear suspension damage as well after that contact, and he didn't make it back to the pits. So out on lap 1, potentially the end of his Formula 1 career as well. He's still adamant that he's going to be returning to Red Bull next year because I have a contract, but now we're starting to hear rumours that he's going to be evaluated at the end of the week, and he has now said that, oh, I'm going in for talks. So even he's started to get that delirium out of his head that he's going to be staying there. He has ultimately cost Red Bull the Constructors' Championship, I have no doubt, especially in those early races when he was smashing the car up, when the car was still the quickest, if not one of the quickest. We're not talking the fact that he had to do P1s and P2s and follow Max home all the time, but he needed to stay inside that top 5. And the only result he's had that was anything sort of decent was after Miami was a 6th place finish. He's picked up next to no points in the second half of the season. Is it something daft like 22 points? That's all he's done. So yeah, it's been a disaster. It really has. And talking about him last here really just sums up his season. Disqualified anyway on the Cruel Room. Will remain that way, of course. Potentially the last time we talk about Checo Perez as well. And if it is, then Checo, you've had a good career, mate. And there's no shame bowing out now. It's just a shame that this season had to happen the way it has done for you to go. I'd assume you've had a much better season and then retired gracefully instead of going into this season and being this bad and then say, you know, I've still got a contract. You know, you fight it till the end and sometimes it doesn't work out, doesn't it? It's almost like Rubens Barrichello, isn't it? He never had a proper send-off from Formula 1 because he was adamant he was going to be on the grid in 2012 and it never happened. Perez, could have been your last race. Probably most likely is your last race. Yeah, you were out on lap 1, but we could have at least given you a proper send-off, mate. So there we have everything, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Let me know down in the comment section, did I score any drivers too high, any too low? But the moment you've all been waiting for is to find out who is in that coveted top 3 positions of the Cruel Room Championship. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's going to be on the screen now. There you go. Congratulations, Charles Leclerc, of course, on wrapping up the title. We sort of knew from a few races ago that it was looking like it was advantage Charles, especially when Nico Hülkenberg picked up that of the week in Qatar as well. Nico Hülkenberg, though, still retaining and holding on to that second place. The runners-up spot is certainly a respectable effort for Nico this weekend and this season overall. He has done a great job. 4 of the weeks, though, but they're probably the only 4 mistakes he's made all season long. He has been a great asset to the Haas squad this season. You can't really expect much more from him. There's probably only realistically a couple of races where points were possible that he lost, such as Qatar and the Baku incident, what happened as well, where he was 9th and then dropped to 11th. So yeah, there's probably a couple of points there, but I still don't think it would have made the difference to overall Alpine in the end, but it certainly would have got him 10th in the driver's standings. And then 3rd place is Pierre Gasly, the driver that has been nowhere all season long, and then these last few races he's made an impact in his own championship in Formula 1 and on the Cruel Room as well. Carlos Sainz there in 4th, just missing out, and then the rest all the way further down. Yuki Tsunoda, after a strong start, finishes outside the top top 3, but still a respectable effort. And the pile of disqualifications would be far greater, of course, if we still had the likes of Logan Sargent and Daniel Ricciardo on the grid. Let's take a look at the top 3 drivers on the podium then. There they are for you to have a look and see. Give them a round of applause, everyone. They have done a great job this season. Well done, bravo, bravissimo. Well done, everyone. Great to see you up there. Charles Leclerc, a deserving winner after being runner-up for so many seasons. Nico Hulkenberg, the first time seeing him on the podium. And Pierre Gasly, I believe it's the first time seeing him inside the top 3 as well. So really shows you how much impact the B teams had on the championship this year overall, on the Cruel Room anyway. And let's take a look at the team standings then, shall we? Those are on the screen for you now. Oh, well done to Ferrari. Well done indeed. But wait. We've got some minus points to deduct, haven't we, guys? And some plus points to add as well to a couple of teams. So, let's do it, shall we? Let's do it. Let's take those points off and let's show you the new order. Bang! There it is. That's the new order. Ferrari still top of the leaderboard, though. Haas in second. And Mercedes end up taking third now as a result of the minus points that Alpine scored earlier in the season. I give them a big, massive amount of minus points, didn't I, at the US Grand Prix for making them look like McLarens. So, yeah, and it turned out it didn't speed them up that particular race, but it sped them up in the latter half of the season. So, yeah, well done to them. But yes, there are your top 3. It is Ferrari, from Haas, from Mercedes. Do you agree with that top 3? Do you think there should have been other teams up there? Stay kick me up the arse, Sauber finishing on minus points. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. They came good at the end, but it was far too little too late for me to take any minus points off of them. They deserved that. They really, really did. So yeah, there you go. That is it. The season has come to a close. That's it. We're done. We're done now. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It always seems weird ending off the last race because it never seems like it's ever going to come. And then before you know it, it's just here instantly. I will see you all for 2025, guys. A massive thanks, as always, goes out to Dan Bartlett, of course, formerly of Mushy Gaming, for providing me with the scoreboard that you see on your screen, for the driver icons, for the intros at the start of the video, and for that lovely podium presentation as well this time around. And who can forget Dave, F1 Gates PlayStation, for providing me with the of the weeks that you don't necessarily know, but you know you're going to love them. That's it. All done. We're ready to sign out. What will be of next year? Who knows? Are we going to go 2000 themed? Are we going to go back to the 80s? You'll have to find out. You'll have to tune in and find out next year. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support and love with the series. It really does mean a lot. We've had a great year this year, haven't we? And yeah, that's it. The Moding Yorkshireman signing out from the Cruel Room. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, much love.